What's going on YouTube? This is the Dark Lord Destro making another video. I want to branch out a little bit and talk about wrestling. I know that WrestleMania is coming up this weekend on Sunday, and I took the day off, of course. Pays when you're the manager. Well, anyhow, go and check it out. Obviously, I always do that every year. I don't watch a lot of wrestling, but when I do, I always tune in. I make it a point to tune in to WrestleMania, and but I just want to talk a little bit about wrestling and my background as, I guess, a so-called fan. I really don't like to call myself a fan because, in my personal opinion, I feel that a grown man shouldn't be a fan of anyone, any team whatsoever. Because when you call yourself a fan, kind of you have an emotional connection with that team, with that person, and in my personal opinion, you shouldn't have. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't be emotionally involved when it comes to sports or entertainment in general. But just want to talk about my love for wrestling and how, yeah, it's faded out now as I gotten older. I'm 41 years old, but I kind of want to bring this up because someone at work, I was at a general manager meeting today at my job, and he's a Redskin. I'm sorry, not Redskin. Excuse me, a wrestling fan. Excuse me, he's a wrestling fan. He was also talking about Redskins too, because he's a Redskin fan, but he was mainly talking about wrestling. And I know back in the day, I grew up in Maryland, and all we had was WWF. I remember the very first match I ever saw was the very first. No, I apologize. It wasn't the very first WrestleMania. It was my very first match was when Hulk Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik with the leg drop, and he became the champion for the first time. And I didn't know what was up because I was so used to watching boxing. When I turned on the TV, I remember I was I think it was at my distant relative's house in New York City, and they had wrestling on, and I was like, what's this? Guys can throw each other around. Where are the boxing gloves? I was confused as to, what is this? This ain't boxing. What are they guys throwing around? And whatnot. So then I was like, okay, well, this is cool. I'm a kid. I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old. Whatever. I like it. So then, flipping through channels when I was a kid, like I said, 6, 7, 8 years old down in Maryland, you turn on USA Network. You had the wrestling on. You had wrestling came on, I think 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I remember on Saturdays they had wrestling came on, I think 11 o'clock or 12. No, 11 o'clock. Then they had like a later on the day on 4 o'clock. Then now and then they had that Saturday night's main event, and that would come on, late at night. My father would let me stay up just to watch that wrestling, and he would watch it with me. And so I grew up watching the wrestling, and of course, you rooted for Hulk Hogan, you rooted for the good guys, and it's funny because I can go back and someone can tell me about a particular year. I can go back and recite almost move for move of what happened during the match and who won and who's the referee, who the managers, and it's just crazy how you remember stuff like that as a kid. And of course, then you grow up as you get older. It's kind of like, all right, good guy thing is cool. I always liked Hogan, but then when Razor Ramon, it was like Razor Ramon when he showed up. I think I was in like 8th or 9th grade, and I was just like, man, I like this dude, man. It's like he's a bad guy, but I like the dude. He say hello to the bad guy. He's imitating Scarface, basically. He got a toothpick throwing at people. He got the 6'4" Impala with the hydraulics. And you're just like, man, this dude's supposed to be a bad guy. I'm supposed to root against this guy and boo him, but I can't. But I like the dude. And so then, of course, let me back up before that. I'll say around 86, 87. Primarily we always watched WWE or WWF back in because that's all we had. And then I remember the local cable company, they started carrying TBS. And I remember, going through the channels and I saw this other type of wrestling. I'm like, okay, how come the ropes aren't red, white, and blue? Because back in those days, WWF ropes in the ring, they were red, white, and blue. But NWA, they had all black ropes. And I was just like, well, what's up with this? And then you had guys like Road Warriors, you had Sting, you had Luger, Ric Flair, you had Arn Anderson, the Four Horsemen, and I'm like, okay, well, this is different. This ain't the same, but hey, it's wrestling, and I'll watch it. I wasn't tripping on that. I wasn't caring about that. So then I remember there was now defunct. There was a video store company called Earl's back in the day, and all the Starrcades, every time they had a Starrcade or Great American Bash or even WrestleMania, because we had pay-per-view, my father wouldn't get this thing for closed circuit television. He wouldn't take me to the place, and so because he had health issues, and I understood that. So I would wait till they came out at Arrow's video store, and I would always be the first one there. And I go rent the video, and I watched it and watched it and watched it, and then take it back to the store and whatnot. And that's how I got caught up with wrestling. All the main pay-per-view. Or back then they were big events, closed circuit television, and so now let's go back. Let's reel it in back into the 90s, early 90s. You see guys jumping back and forth. You see Luger or Flair go over to the WWF, or Anderson or Tully Blanchard did, and you just like, okay, well, I see what's going on. It's like I'm looking at it. Okay, it's like sports, like football. Okay, one guy goes to one team and the other. I didn't know at that time they were owned by two different entities or two different people. So I'm just like watching it for what it is. And then as you get older, as toward I say 10th, 11th, 12th grade, you realize, okay, there's two separate owners and two companies, what have you. And I graduated in 1994, and I kind of like got out of wrestling. I go off to school, and you have other things going on, other interests, women and whatnot, and so you don't tune into wrestling all the time. You glance at it, and just to keep up what's going on, or you have a friend who still watches it. He keeps you up to date on what's happening, who did what, who swindled who backstabbed this guy, who took this person's woman. So you kind of kept up what was going on. Then it was Memorial Day, 1996, and then I guess I was in and out of wrestling. I wasn't really into wrestling. So it was Memorial Day, 1996. Just flipping the channels, and I know and I'm watching WCW, and next I see Razor Ramon coming down the stands. I'm like, hold on, man. Hold on. I got the right channel, because where I lived at, USA Network was channel 33, and TNT was channel 38. So I thought I had the wrong channel at first. I'm like, hold on, man. This dude's over this organization. How is that possible? And of course, we all know the history. He came down. He basically told everybody, look, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. And he goes in his spiel about, him taking over. And then, of course, okay, well, this is interesting, because I remember even rumblings back then in the early 90s, actually even late 80s. I remember reading Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They would talk about, what if this guy came over to WWF? What if this guy came WWF over to NWA/WCW? And he was like, okay, is this, because you didn't know, is this real? Because you got to keep in mind, the internet was still it wasn't mainstream yet. I mean, I knew about the internet. I was using the internet in the early 90s when it was like Unix and stuff, but it wasn't mainstream like it is now. So you're sitting there watching it week after week. He's talking about, I'm going to bring his surprise buddy, and then Kevin Nash show up, and just like, okay, I was never a big Kevin Nash fan. I mean, I didn't hate him, but I didn't like it. He was another dude to me. So then next he's part of the group, and next okay, we got a surprise buddy, and we're just like, okay, well, all right, well, who's the surprise dude? And everybody trying to figure it out, and next it was Hulk Hogan. We was like, wow, like Hogan, really? Hogan turned bad? And to me, as a wrestling fan, I never saw that. That was a swerve. That was a curveball that I did not see coming. It's like, wow, you talking about Hogan? Hulk Hogan, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and the 24-inch pythons and whatnot. This fool turned bad? And you realize that, yeah, he was a bad guy at the very beginning of his career, but I didn't see that. I was like, wow. Then they were throwing trash, batteries, drinks. Now me, I know it wasn't no brothers out there throwing expensive beer. Beer costs $8, $9, $10 a cup. Man, I'd be damn, I'd throw some beer at someone. I don't care how mad I am. I'll sip on that bad boy all night. Well, anyhow, it's just crazy how wrestling was, and the Monday Night Wars, and I was WCW guy. To me, WCW felt more real. WWF, even during that so-called Attitude Era and the DX, I didn't like DX. To me, I didn't like them. I thought they were a bunch of NWO wannabe suckers. I thought they were clowns. They weren't serious. All about grown man's league. I looked at WCW as a grown man's league, and I looked at WWF as cornball / kiddie league. And that's just the way I look at it. I still look at it that way. Even during our attitude era, I was like, look, I'm all about wrestling. I want to see your skills versus the next man's skills. I don't want to see all this craziness and all and whatnot. So, of course, we all know the history. They lost the Monday Night Wars. WWF bought them all out and stuff. And to me, it seemed like wrestling has gone downhill ever since. And it's kind of like the same thing with Madden and 2K. Once 2K got phased out of the picture for making football games, it's like, well, you have one game in town, and then the quality can just be whatever because, hey, you only have one option. But now you got New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA. I mean, well, they're not called Impact Wrestling. Like I said, I don't keep up like I used to, but I listen to Jason Salamonster on occasion and hear about what's going on with that, and I'm just like, well, it is what it is. So, wrestling's different now, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting old. I'm 41 years old. Maybe I'm not that kid anymore that enjoyed wrestling. And now I watch it, and it's like, man, it's like all these dudes, they almost wrestle the same way. They almost celebrate the same way. It's like there's no personality. And then I think they're not totally to blame. I think that's part of what WWE wants them to do, from what I hear. Because I listen to a lot of guys like, Jason Salamonster's one guy. I listen to, Don Tony, and another dude that's with him, his partner. I listen to him on occasion. And I also listen to OTR at Central. The Jeff guy from Richmond, Virginia. I listen to him on occasion. And they pretty much talk about what's going on, how the guys can't be themselves. They're hindered by the WWE, which you can kind of see it and feel it. So I'll tune in. Like I said, I'll tune in to WrestleMania. It's an annual event. It's like watching Super Bowl. And it's predetermined. We all know it's predetermined. Then again, some people feel that professional sports is predetermined too. It feels like it sometimes, especially when the Patriots are involved. But anyhow, enough of me rambling. It was just something I wanted to talk about because, hey, it's WrestleMania week, and I know that down in New Orleans, my boy Irvin, he's down in New Orleans. I know what's great about that is that it's not just WWE having weekly or daily events during this week, but you have Ring of Honor, you have other wrestling independent organizations. They're down there, and they're having their own little shows and whatnot, and it's like, okay, well, I wish I could go down there, but brother's got to work. So I'm in it like that. If you have any comments, questions, whatever, just drop them down. Talk to you later. Peace.